He's right here. And it's me, Gus, and the birds in the background. He hasn't eaten in a week. It was like, hi! It was like really high pitch. And out popped this bent bottle cap. It's frustrating when that happens. And I thought, boy, I wonder if anybody else is frustrated by this, because I certainly am. It's so simple and it's so great.
Right.
And it answers a lot. It fills a lot of holes that a lot of dogs all over the world have.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Legacy Biome Podcast, where we break down the science of microbiome health, one gut story at a time. I'm your host, Melissa Natanson, canine nutritionist, holistic pet health coach, and microbiome-obsessed pet parent. Today, I am super excited to welcome someone whose work I've admired for a long time, Rob Ryan, founder of Gussy's Gut. And if you haven't heard of it, it's a unique, raw, organic, fermented superfood formula and made in the USA. It's designed to nourish your pet's gut microbiome. Rob's here to talk about the science and story behind why his blend stands out. Plus, the story behind Gussy's Gut is kind of one you won't forget, and it will all started with one amazing dog. Let's dive in. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate it. Yeah, he's right here. And it's me, Gus, and the birds in the background.
Well, hey, it couldn't get better than that. Surrounded by nature, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now we want to hear the story.
How Gussy started?
Yeah.
Well, it started with him. So he got in the trash, and which he normally does not do. And I didn't know until he stopped eating. And he was acting weird. Then he stopped eating. And I was like, uh-oh, for a Labrador to stop eating is not good. And I took him to the vet. It continued. We ended up imaging him. Couldn't find anything, which is super concerning because you really wonder what's going on. And then the last few days, until it resolved, the last few days, he stopped drinking. So I was taking him every day to get IVs to keep him hydrated. So you can imagine how horrible, like ruined the days. Like just the stress is, it's overwhelming. And then one day, the last day, it was a week in total, he asked to be let go outside. And I thought, I just knew, like, he's going to try to go poop. And I just thought, how he hasn't eaten in a week, like, but it's like I felt it, and something was like a glimmer of hope. I took him out, and he squatted. I was like, what? And then he let out a big yelp, a really high pitched yelp. I'll never forget.
Oh, poor guy.
It was like, hi! It was like really high pitch, and out popped this bent bottle cap from those big, I was entertaining. So I had a family over the house, and I had a big, like half and half, one of those plastic half and half bottles. And it was a blue, I have a picture of it. I'm going to post it on our website because it's disgusting because I literally took a picture, it's got poop on it, but it was bent and then chewed a little bit because he had obviously had his way with it before he swallowed it. And it popped out, and then immediately he went to go drink. And I was like, oh my God, I'm over the hump. And then he ate right away. I tempted him with something. He ate right away. I was like, whoa. But what followed was really, really weird poops that I've never seen before. I would take pictures, send them to the vet. And so what I ended up doing is just throwing the kitchen sink. The vet gave me a bunch of stuff, which were not fermented foods. And I did my research, and I ended up making him more and more ever complicated blends of fermented foods. And what I ended up seeing was just so profound that I said, boy, after many, many weeks of fermenting, and, I've told this story before, but, it was on the bottom of the pantry. I knocked it over. I stained my grout because I was fermenting beets with other stuff, and it was red. And so, it's frustrating when that happens. And I thought, boy, I wonder if anybody else is frustrated by this, because I certainly am.
Yeah.
And then I started asking a few of my vet friends and Dr. Ian Billinghurst, who he and I had a relationship prior because he taught me how to feed my dogs raw food 25 years prior. But it was actually about 20 years prior at that point. And so he said to me, I just remember him looking at me and I thought, is this a bad idea that I'm giving him? And he just kind of was dumbfounded and kind of almost his mouth was a little bit open. And he said, I can't believe I haven't thought of this. It's so simple and it's so great.
Right.
And it answers a lot. It fills a lot of holes that a lot of dogs all over the world have. One of the first things he said was, like, for example, in Australia, you can't get tripe. So, he's always looking for something better than yogurt, which is actually pretty low grade, pretty low on the ladder of gut health supplements. It's pretty much useless, actually. And, kefir would be above that.
Right.
Still also pretty low. You'd have to give a lot to make a difference. And at the end of the day, like, it's just like you're not going to give your dog like a cup of yogurt necessarily. And so I said, great, let me send you a sample. Let me make, versions. And then I got a hold of, very good friend of mine who still to this day does our manufacturing, who I've known for, I knew for almost a decade before. And she said to me, you'll never be able to keep it on the shelf. And she's very involved in the dog health business at a very, very high level. And so on we went. We started and, we bootstrapped the company. We're a family owned company. We've never raised money. We don't have like venture capital or anything like that. We have no big, evil corporations behind us or anything. So, but we're truly like a farm to package operation, and we invest in our sourcing the most. That's where we spend a lot of our energy. Our formulation, of course, but we don't formulate every day.
Right.
So it's relationships, it's knowing ranchers, knowing farmers. We start with the best ingredients. We commit to the best practices in manufacturing, the least of processing, obviously, to make a product that's for the consumer. And then we just wait for the results to come in. And what we see is everything. It just depends on where the dog's at.
Well, and it's amazing because fermented foods have been part of a human lifestyle for a long time, but we kind of think about where dogs have lost that fermentation problem. I always talk about, like, we had these farm dogs that like were growing up on like co-op special kibble, and they lived a long time, but they were burying bones in the backyard and then going to dig them back up again. High microbial diversity. And this is gross, but I always tell the story. They would like get the 2-day-old cow after birth and like gnaw down on that. And dogs even now, because
which is amazing.
Right. It's amazing for them. And they've been missing it for so long, but the power of fermentation and how it works with the short chain fatty acids and things like that. But what's the difference, Rob, between giving something that's already fermented and fiber fermenting in the gut?
Well, I mean, only, 4-chamber, like a cow ferments. It has a fermentation tank inside. Dogs don't have that.
Right.
All digestion is some form of ferment. I mean, humans have it, birds have it, you name it. So we just do the heavy lifting at a deeper level than, because it goes in raw. If you don't ferment it, it goes in raw, and then it's left to the digestion tract of that particular animal, which is really, how healthy is that animal to be able to do that breaking down. We do it for them. It's almost like, I always, it depends on what company I'm in. I'll joke like, I don't like, say this as a general rule, but like, it's like I have birds right there that are actually on both sides of me that are, you can see their babies. They're popping out and they're feeding their young. Well, they go out and they, whether it's worms or whatever, and they go digest it, they vomit it back up and they're feeding it. Like they're injecting it with their beaks. These ones I zoom in on with my camera and it's pre-digested. Fermentation is in the case of plants, vegetables, grasses, herbs, all that fun stuff, tubers. That's all done through fermentation by us. And we're just basically doing the mama bird thing for the vegetables and making sure those vegetables are a lot more valuable right when they go in the mouth. And so when they hit the digestive tract, it's so much easier to break down and get more value out of those products, those ingredients.
Right. And of course, what is the goal is increasing microbial diversity, having something for them to grow on.
Yeah, and bioavailability and absorption. Because, if I just asked you a quick question, what would you give me the answer to this question? You are what you
Eat.
you are what you absorb. And so, of course, you're right. Yeah, you can't eat junk food, but I would argue if you have a bad absorption problem and you're even eating junk food and you have a high absorption ability, you might be able to get more benefit out of some things. I mean, we could just debate this all day long. It's obviously it's not the point of this call of this interview podcast, but the most of the vets that we know and love, Dr. Ruth being one of them, we talk all the time about, maybe you round up some vegetables, maybe if you were to chop them up whole in pieces, you're going to get a low level absorption. If you blend them in, say, a regular blender, you'll get another absorption. If you blend them in, say, a Vitamix, you're going to get a better absorption.
Yeah.
If you juice them, you get a better absorption. You separate the juice from the cell wall.
Right.
And you even add it back together again. But you separated it. You've done the job of digestion. So you juice it, take the pulp, put it back in, but you've separated it. You've done the job of digestion at a deeper level. Well, what we do is we blend everything together at a very, almost like a mush. It's macerated. And then we ferment it. So like you think of a speck of vegetable getting surrounded by those microbes and broken down, as opposed to like big chunks of whatever, so we pre-do that, then ferment it, and then strain it. And then it goes on to the rest of the, dehydrating, freeze drying process that we use. And then we very gentle and low processing, low heat, low pressure, all that stuff. And then we package it. And, it's gotta be convenient, so that, the dogs can benefit from it, because nobody's, in a general rule, most pet consumers are not going to do something that isn't easy and sustainable.
Right. And I think that example really breaks it down. It breaks down the breakdown of how it gets into the gut and really is there for the ultimate absorption, and then producing all those good things like encouraging microbial diversity and short chain fatty acids, all that fun stuff. So how do you ferment it then?
Yeah, so it's really, all we do is we look at 5,000 years of history, and we use Redmond's real salt, and we let it do its thing all by itself. We don't do, like, when a lot of companies talk about something that is for gut health, they're introducing external probiotics.
Right.
So
or they're trying to cultivate a certain one.
They're trying to cultivate a certain one. And we just let nature do its thing. And like, for example, on our main product that we're actually renaming Boost from the name Daily. That's our first product. And tomorrow we're calling it Boost. We're announcing it to the world, because what we discovered by accident is that it's actually not something you need to do every single day. You can boost for 90, because we have seen over thousands of dogs that in that 90-day period, they get the most benefit from that product. And it's also our biggest product, our 19 ingredient. It's quite expensive. It's our most expensive product. And what we then said is, wonder if we could create a product that continued that journey, but also at a lower cost for the consumer. Because after 90 days, do you really need 19 superfoods all the time?
Right.
And some dogs do need it. Older dogs, ailing dogs, recovering dogs. You might want to boost your dog's health when they've gone through a surgery, boost your dog's health after they've gone through antibiotics, boost your dog's health if they're dealing with some serious disease or illness. And you could even do that ongoing if you'd like. But we created a new product that just came out for us called Sustain. So we thought it was an apropos name to change it from Daily to Boost. And so first you boost for 90 days, then you sustain their gut health. And Sustain is great. It's about half the number of ingredients and almost half the price.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a unique profile of nutrients that you can feed 275 remaining days of the year. So 90 days of Boost, 275 rest of the days of the year. And then once a year, you just boost. Every single year, you do it once for 90 days.
Yeah. Or once a year, you do an FMT and then a boost and then keep going.
They don't have to be mutually exclusive. I mean,
Of course,
one of the things that we've talked to the great guys at Legacy is that, like, there is such a problem right now with the environment. And so most people, when they think about, well, why do I need to deal with the microbiome of my dog?
Right.
This wasn't always a problem. And the reason it's a problem is, number one, first and foremost, mostly because of glyphosate. Number two, mostly because of farming practices and over-tilling, and we're not rotating our crops. The nutrient density, the nutrient health of our soil has gone down. So everybody can Google this. It takes a lot more consumption of a vegetable to get the same value in nutrients that you would back in, say, the 50s.
And the mineral content is zapped.
Yeah. So we have lower nutrition, higher toxins in the environment. And glyphosate is not the only herbicide, pesticide, fungicide that's being sprayed. It's in the air. Studies, Karen Becker just posted on her social media that there's now proof that if you live within 1 mile of a golf course, you're exposed to glyphosate, which is that weed killer. And your incidence of all sorts of horrifying health, I'll call them defects, start to happen because that chemicals in and what these things do is they allow for the breaking apart, the separation of what they call the tight junctions of your gut. So the junctions of your gut then separate, and think of it as a wall. So tight junctions, really good. Toxins can't go in the system, in the bloodstream, because the junctions are tight. They keep the bad pathogens and toxins out. Loose junctions, it's like having a chain link fence versus a solid steel fence or solid wood fence. And so when you have loose junctions, guess what? All sorts of stuff starts to happen.
And then the immune system gets confused. I was actually just talking to Dr. Ruth about this morning. We were doing another podcast, and where this kind of goes wonky when those tight junctions start coming apart, then there's something that is called GALT, which is gut associated lymphoid tissue that lines the intestines, and it starts getting confused as to what Rob just said, whether it's an invader or whether it's, friend or foe. So in most cases where your dog is like, oh, chicken, oh, pollen, no problem, GALT's cool. But when you've got leaky gut involved, then GALT gets confused, and then we have immune chaos. I mean, the gut is 70 to 90% of the immune system, and this is where things go haywire.
Yeah, and you may not be diagnosed with leaky gut or IBD or IBS, but you might just start noticing these really frustrating health concerns, and you can't get to the root of them. And it could just be really minor, and I'm saying this in relation to other things, minor it's like the surface of the skin has issues. It could be itching. It could be as you said, allergies.
Well, and it could also be largest organ.
Yeah, and it could be very serious, like cancer. So, what we believe is in human health and in mammalian health, and the mammals that are probably most common that live with us are dogs and cats. We now have to have a little bit of attention and an intention on the gut, because we really have to protect the inside from the outside.
That's right. Well,
and I'll just say one thing about like all this. This is probably a good time to go into histamines, because dealing with histamines is something you and I talked about super briefly.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It's like the pollen. It's like all these other things, chicken allergies, all these things that people don't want to point to one thing. Because it feels simple and easy if they can just focus on one thing. Unfortunately, it's not.
Right. Well, yeah, we can get into histamine. I kind of want to set up the histamine. I didn't get to tell you a whole lot about my story with Gussy's gut, and I'm going to share it because I have a little bit of a backstory with my own rescue, Darla. Those of you that have listened to the Legacy Biome podcast before knows that she's my reason for everything, kind of like Gussy. So when I rescued Darla 12 years ago, she was losing her hair. She had hot spots. She had intestinal issues. So of course she'd been on around antibiotics. She was eating probably a low junky kibble. But this kind of started my journey because she was dealing with these allergies all the time. And I didn't realize how big of a part her microbiome was playing in it. And until one day, we're going to go back and talk about GALT that gets confused, the leaky gut and the immune system. The wind was blowing and her GALT was like, should I launch an immune response against that pollen? Yes, I should. And it shows violence. And she broke it out in head to toe hives. And then, cue the steroids and the antibiotics and in antihistamines, all the things. So this kind of progressed on. We're doing some probiotic therapy, but we're not really getting over the hump of it all. And we're just kind of barely keeping the symptoms at bay. Stick with me here, everyone. I've got to point to this story. So several years later, due to this microbiome imbalance, Darla later got a really gnarly case of Clostridium difficile. So, and her microbiome.
Easy for you to say.
I mean, it was Lordy, that poor doggy. So, I was at my wit's end and I had tried another therapy that didn't work. So luckily my vet was like, hey, I just heard of Legacy Biome. Let's give them a try. So we did some food therapy and we did a Legacy Biome FMT. And within 9 days, she tested negative. But here's the other thing. The great side effect of it all is Darla's allergies are pretty much zilch. She hasn't really had an issue since. But here's the really fun part. After I did the Legacy Biome FMT, I have followed it up intermittently with Gussy's Gut. I kind of did what you were talking about, 90-day. And I just recently did a microbiome report on Darla, and it was darn near perfect.
Beautiful. Great.
There we go.
It's really not hard, actually, to, if you're focusing on the right things. It's when you have to be really careful in your human health journey and in your pet's health journey. You have to have humility, and you have to always, always, always have in the back of your mind that you may not be onto the right path. You might not be on the right path. And you're going to try this thing, and then you're going to evaluate, and you're going to see, and you're going to be methodical about it, and you're going to give things enough time to work. And I think where a lot of people get into trouble is hopping from one Instagram purchase to another.
Yeah.
Or the kids' TikTok purchases.
Right.
And so, if you're not giving juicing, let's just talk about like juicing vegetables.
Yeah.
If you're not giving that 90 days to see what it does for you, well, you missed it. And what you did is you actually really harmed yourself. It's to your detriment. Not, juicing doesn't care, but it's to your detriment that you sort of cross that off your list. You say, oh, that's another thing that didn't work.
Right.
But what you did is you only gave it a week or two, and you assumed that was enough time. The truth is it wasn't. And so good for you for giving the FMT enough time to evaluate. And, I think that for the right solution for the right problem is key. And sometimes you have to just stumble your way through it and try, but you have to, like I said, you have to give it enough time to try.
Right.
So good for you. The way I think going back a little bit to what we were saying, the Legacy Biome it's not mutually exclusive. I think what we do for Legacy, it's clearly a more high-powered product than fermented vegetables.
Right.
But what we do is we can help amplify or, supercharge. And I don't want to be too like marketing-ish in the languaging, but those are the words that come to my mind. We can amplify the benefits of many things. We've had pet owners that obviously, like us, they know their pets like the back of their hand. And some pets have been given medication. And look, folks, talk to your vets. I'm not a doctor. I'm not making a claim here, but they have said to us on camera, without being paid, without any solicitation of any kind, they can see that the drugs they're giving, because these particular dogs need certain drugs, they actually are needed less frequently. They're noticing that their observation, I'll say, is that the drugs are working better and lasting longer than what with Gussy's gut taken with them. And it's not like it's magic, and we're certainly not trying to do that with our product. It's just that eating something fermented or even pickled actually helps with the absorption of whatever else you're eating with it. I don't care if it's a piece of steak or chips or, a drug or a nutraceutical or a vitamin, mineral, something like that. Right. So and that's all pretty much documented, Googleable. Like this isn't me saying it. This is just, this has been studied by a lot of doctors, a lot of hospitals, and all the way up to the National Institutes of Health. Whatever you may be thinking about NIH, this is a huge effort to try to figure out, wow, what is going on with fermented? How does it work? Why is it working this way in the gut? And I don't think it's that complicated. I think that once you help the gut, you put something in the gut that it likes and that tighten those junctions and get it working a little bit better. The thing that's in the gut at the same exact time is just working better.
Right. Well, and from what I've seen in my own research, just with Darla and, with clients, is if there's a serious microbial imbalance or we've got serious allergies going on, then the place to start is 30 to 60 days of FMT. And then I think the conversation is we're switching it from, we're not throwing a couple of strains of probiotic at things, because again, we know that the microbiome, it's not about the amount of probiotics that are in there. It's how it works as a community. They've all got different jobs. And so what Gussy's gut does, I feel like, Robin, you tell me what you think. I feel like after we do an FMT, I'm not sure about, I think I'd have to dig in more. We can talk about that now, about doing FMT and Gussy's gut together. But at the very, very least, after doing an FMT, following up with Gussy's gut to continue to have that microbiome flourish when it's got the right stuff to grow on. FMT, I feel like, is different than anything because it can get in there and engraft and help encourage that microbial diversity. But those microbes, their favorite thing to grow on is plant matter.
Fiber.
It's Gussy's gut.
Yeah, there's two unsung heroes that fermentation of vegetables gives you. Fiber, another word for that is in the gut world is prebiotics.
Right.
We call them prebiotics because they're before the probiotics. The probiotics need them to exist to munch on and want to multiply.
Right.
Stay.
Right.
Stay to live in the gut. If you have transient probiotics, it's absolutely useless. That means transient means they flow right through you out the other end.
And you have to keep giving them.
Yeah, you just keep giving them. Nothing happens. And so really valuable prebiotics that are high nutrient dense, plants of various types. And I went through those: vegetables, tubers, herbs, grasses, sprouts. And if you do those, every microbe has its favorite. So just like people, some microbes like the fiber that's in broccoli, some microbes like the fiber, and I'm not just one, of course, but multiple, but some will like this particular grass, some will like this. And that's why some dogs are eating grasses and poop. They're self-medicating. And what they're doing with the grass is they're self-medicating for prebiotics, fiber, because it's there. And they know instinctually that they need something. Mm-hmm. And they're supplementing with animal poop. And we have a lot of those customers, which is something you guys really supplement for, but a cleaner, better, more optimized source of that. And so, and by the way, I'm all for it. I mean, I have said many times that eventually, as soon as I just have a little bit more time, I can't wait to get Gus a puppy friend. And that dog's going to be raw fed, and I'm going to be very committed to his health, obviously. And I can't wait I'm going to figure out who can take that puppy's poop and process it and put it in pills. And I'll have a veterinarian inject it in the rear end. And I'm sorry if this is too much for people.
No,
you
please.
should all look into it. And then I have an actual 1-to-1. I have a dog and I know this is not possible for everybody, which is why Legacy is so awesome.
Yeah.
So, but I'm so crazy and committed. This is what I'll do. So I'll take that puppy's poop, we'll process it, make it a slurry, we'll do an ozone in the rear end of Gus, right. Because he's going to be 9 in October. So right around 10 is what I think is going to start happening. And I'm going to give him these vital, youthful, amazing, all of these cofactors. And like by the way, folks, like probiotics doesn't even begin to cover the value of FMT. So all of these cofactors and these compounds that are coming in and that are helping heal, I think of them as, in my simple raw brain, as being like stem cells. Mm-hmm. And so Gussy will take those, his body will recognize them, turn them into what he needs and fill in those holes and gaps and give him it's like the fountain of youth. And if we can say we have one now, that's what I'm doing it for. It's preventative. It's not to treat anything. He luckily has never had an earache or allergy, itching, hair loss, all that. He never had any of that. So for me, it's about
just eating bottle caps. That's it.
Yeah, just that. Yeah. And by the way, his gut is crazy. With my last 2 Labradors, I could never do certain things. Like one of my dogs could never have fish. He just couldn't.
Yeah.
I can throw this dog. Of course, let me knock on wood. I can throw anything at this dog's digestion. And I mean anything. Yesterday, I had French toast in sourdough bread for dinner.
Oh, nice.
I don't know. That was what I wanted. And I gave him a piece. I'm like, oh my God, I'm giving this dog sourdough bread with like maple syrup on it and grass-fed butter and everything. I mean, nothing rocks this dog. Like I gave him crazy different fish. I just threw some mussels at him. Before that, he's had oysters. I've done all sorts of things for nutrient density and in his food. I'm telling you, he's bulletproof, and I feel very lucky. But it's been through an intentional practice of varying his diet, making sure he's a healthy dog. Getting him out in nature is a really big thing too that I think is undervalued.
Microbes in the ground. They've got to ground to get those microbes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, really, if dogs were in the wild, they're not eating the same thing every day. They're not eating the same kibble. They're not eating this. They're not even eating the same fresh whole food. They're designed to do exactly what you're doing. They should be able to take it. And when their gut is intact, they should be. Not like Darla, who decided to eat my neighbor's tomato plant. 25 cherry tomatoes came out the exact same way they went down. Now,
isn't that interesting?
Gussy's gut. And she's a 10-pound Yorkie. So a lot of those tomatoes going in there. It's interesting. I was just talking to Dr. Ruth this morning, and she was telling me about a study, like reading through it before we got on. I didn't get a chance to really go through it. And they were doing a microbiome study on these dogs, Laotian dogs, South African dogs, and some dogs in India. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
So what they were doing is they were measuring how much the microbiome of kind of these street dogs there could possibly mirror the one of ancient canid dogs via what they found from DNA in the teeth. And so these dogs are rolling around eating food scraps, but they're also finding that they're eating fermented grains. And I know most canine nutritionists are no grains. But they found in that study that their intake of plant matter and even some fermented grains via eating fermented old street food, their microbiome diversity was much higher than any average dog in the US. We won't tell that to Dr. Roman. It might be different with her dogs, of course. I mean, that's a whole nother study. But I was thinking about it. And of course, I mean, it changes my thinking on it a little bit. And I think, well, if we've got a dog with IBD or some gastrointestinal problems, they can't necessarily do those fermented grains for various reasons. But guess what Gussy's gut? Because it's not the grains, but they're still getting the fermentation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
I'll send it to you. I'll send you the study. It's interesting.
I wouldn't say no to grains that were fermented, sprouted and fermented especially, but as a rule, they're carbs. So
right.
I don't believe in them.
Me too.
For dogs. But I would say if you're going to feed carbs, it's probably better to ferment them, get rid of a lot of the sugar, break it down. It has nutrients in it. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
I mean, it absolutely has nutrients in it. So there's that's indisputable. whether you want the carbs with those nutrients is a very different thing. And I don't, but I wouldn't say it's like sort of high value food, but yeah, I mean, I think those dogs that are in specific regions where, there are crops, they get cut down, there's some waste, it dies, it gets fermented, they eat it, whatever. That could be over many, many thousands of years, where those certain breeds have evolved to eat local,
right.
to eat, in Laos or South Africa or wherever. So I would be interested in that. And I think so would Dr. Billingers.
Well, and that it maybe lends itself to the thought that microbial diversity just means that they can handle and digest more. So it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like the microbial diversity was there because they were eating this stuff, and therefore they can eat this stuff more, and they've just kind of adapted. I was thinking about Gussy, because you're saying, like you can throw anything at him and he can handle it, and including some sourdough waffles.
Yeah. French toast.
Yeah. French toast.
I mean, I had, to my defense, I had eggs in there. Yeah.
It's okay, even if you didn't.
Yeah. But so the question that's coming up is, what is diversity? So first of all, I even just go one step back. What I think a lot of people do when they're buying things is they don't actually know what they're solving for. If I asked the person listening, what is gut health? And most of them would say, well, it's, I don't know. It's my dog can digest. Gut health might be no allergies. Gut health. They're describing usually they're describing outcomes or things but really gut health is actually gut diversity and gut terrain health. Yeah. The terrain is the lining of the gut.
Right.
Is it strong? Is it tight junctions? Is it hospitable to good probiotics? And will it keep pathogens or bad microbes out? And then the diversity is not a one size fits all, surprise, surprise. So, your dog, Darla, where you live in California, is very different than the microbiome of my dog, Gus, where he lives here in Tennessee. And it's not just because of location. That's part of it, for sure. He's got the local biome that he's absorbing, the biome being where we live. And then, of course, there's breed and genetics and what he's eaten and, how he lives his life, how his stress level, all these things. Is he living his best life in terms of his breed? Is he fetching in terms of Labrador? Are they doing what they were meant to do? Are they filling all of these things have a massive effect on the microbiome. But most people don't know what the goal is. It's diversity and terrain health. So everything you do should be a part of that. You're not really going to find that in a pill that is just a probiotic, 1 or 2, 3 species. Because playing God with the microbiome, the balance of microbiome, you have no idea what you're doing. Nobody does. No doctor does. No test can get you there. Most people don't understand the gut microbiome tests. They're not perfect.
No.
And, there's not enough tests. We don't have the instrumentation to test for all of the probiotics that exist in our dogs. And we lack all the knowledge that we need to say, okay, well, this particular dog needs this prescription, this much of this much of this. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I can go into a whole diatribe on this for 2 hours, and I won't.
Well, we can someday. We
can someday. But what I'm just saying is the technology does not exist, both in instrumentation and in knowledge of medical knowledge, to be able to prescribe, your dog should have exactly this much of each probiotic.
Right.
And that's
you need a bifigo and a lactobacillus and maybe a little Bacteroides. We don't know.
Yeah. And there's, that's just, we know, Melissa, there's 500 species and 1,000 subspecies. And that's just what we know. We actually think it's millions. But what we know of is 500 and 1,000 subspecies. I'm sorry, there's just the best instrumentation that exists to test the microbiome. You can test 20 strains. 20 compared to 500. We're off.
Yeah.
So this whole playing scientist with our dog's gut microbiome, get them healthy with FTM. Of course, first and foremost, a great diet and really great supplementation, and get them out in nature, and the rest will we'll get really close. And I'm not even sure the goal should be some sort of perfect microbiome, because we all fluctuate.
I don't even know if that exists.
It does. I mean, it's sort of it's a lovely dream. It's really, I think it's not serious in practice. It's, going at something trying to be perfect is really not good.
Yeah.
What is that? No, what is that? What is that? Making perfect the good. Every time I'm on camera, I can never say it. When I'm not on camera, I can always say it. Don't make perfect the evil of good or something.
Well,
I can never do it.
Maybe we'll call it imperfect action. We just need to make imperfect action in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
That's what Dr. Ruth says. I couldn't agree more though. I talk about this all the time. Like we have to have the right foundation with food. I think FMT from Legacy Biome is the closest thing that we've got right now, in my opinion, to an ideal microbiome, and keeping the Gussy's gut on board. There's lots of information on the different products, the grasses and sprouts, the superfood, the exciting new one that you've got coming up. Anything else new and exciting coming up for Gussy's gut besides the boost?
Well, first of all, I just Googled it. So don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sorry. I just had to do that. It was killing me. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of cool, exciting things. We work with a lot of companies. We make for really great companies. We make we call them key ingredient partnerships. So we make a fermented blend for the salty dog recipe at Albright's. We make a key ingredient blend for Dr. Marty's digestive formula, his pet food. We do this for a lot of different companies, and we're really proud of those associations. Most people don't know we do those, but we have these great relationships because those companies come to us because they know and trust us and love what we do. But we're not we're not trying to make a bunch of different products. We're trying to make a few really, really great products that really move the needle for your pet's gut health. And so there are results that you can see in 90 days.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, you're doing some great work. I've seen it. I've seen it with my own dog. I've seen it with my clients, but there's two things I want to touch on before we wrap things up for today. And hopefully we won't get too deep into them. So histamine, there's concern in the holistic communities about some histamine intolerance and the idea that fermentation can increase histamine intolerance in dogs that might be sensitive. What's your take on that, Rob?
So histamines are a buzzword, and I feel like it almost kind of sounds scary.
It's not. Histamine's just a messenger. It's just a chemical messenger.
Yeah. So some histamines are vital, and that's the keyword, underline vital. Double click on vital for normal immune function. So that's number one. Unhealthy dogs, sick dogs, unwell dogs, whatever label you'd like to use, they have problem with histamines.
Right.
If your dog is in that area, you know what I'd say? If you were my best friend, my relative, and my customer, I'd say, you know what? Just hold off on Gussy's gut. Do FMT.
Yeah, do FMT first.
Why do we have to have an issue? I don't need to have a debate.
Yeah.
But I will say this, that there's a lot of nuance in histamine and fermentation. Longer fermentations, which we do not do, cause higher histamines. Short-term fermentations and long-term fermentations cause high histamine levels. It's a sweet spot in the middle. Dr. Billinghurst is incredibly aware, so am I, of histamines. So no, there's a very low concern for us in Gussy's gut with histamines. Now, if you have a really sick dog, IBD, IBS, anywhere, leaky gut, all that, I would say this very simply. Get your dog well, bring them on Gussy's gut, and we'd love to welcome them and really take them to the next level. But, we're not a therapeutic. I think that if to use my words, I would say FMT is more of a therapeutic than Gussy's gut is for sure. And that's how I would see it in my world. I'm not saying that's the way you guys see it or Legacy sees it, but that's how I see it. And so I'd say go that route. Come to us when you've got a baseline of health, and we can take you to the next level.
Yeah.
Look,
I would agree.
Histamines are very simple, and they're nothing to be afraid of. Healthy dogs generate an enzyme that breaks down histamines. Diamine oxidase. Diamine oxidase. If you're not in good health, you can't break that down. You lack that enzyme. End of story. That's not that hard to think about. For example, we just went through a pretty serious allergy season with pollens. guess what? I had a pretty good reaction to a certain pollen in the trees. You know what I took? Enzymes.
That's right.
Boom.
Yeah.
So we're really talking about when people have histamines, they want to just like look at a meme online and, oh my God, it's histamines. Oh my God. Well, look deeper.
Yeah.
Look at your dog's health. Think about enzymes. Think about diamine oxidase. Think about how all histamines exist. They're, not to be concerned with, especially not the way we do our products. And,
right.
But do they exist? Of course. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's another thing people got all crazy about was oxalates. And look, folks, it's not, we think about all these things for your dog, now for these rare outliers of these dogs that are crazy, crazy sensitive to a lot of things. And I mean, like at a crazy high level, you just might not be able to be our customer. I don't know. I just don't know. Right. But, we're not going to push it on you. And we're certainly, that's why we say, look, go to your vet, ask your vet. We certainly don't want somebody. Look, our North Star is to increase the lifespan and the health span of the dogs we serve. We don't want them having any reaction. So, get your dog healthy, get your dog right. Let us help take you to the home, the finish line, the home base. What is that? Home run.
Yeah.
And we'd love to get you there, and we'd love to keep you there.
Right. Well, and to piggyback off what you said and just kind of drive that point home where FMT can help in getting the dog healthy in my opinion, and this is backed up, but from what I've seen, in all allergies or IBD, obviously IBD, there's always some level of leaky gut, and leaky gut, again, caused by an inflamed gut. And guess what plummets when the gut is leaky and the gut wall is inflamed? DAO is produced in the gut lining and it plummets when it's inflamed. So that backs up what Rob said and kind of what we're talking about. Do an FMT. Do an FMT first, get your dog to a certain level of GI health and balance, and then follow it up with a Gussy's gut.
And I said very clearly several times in the beginning of this podcast, gut terrain health, that's the gut lining.
Yeah.
So gut lining health is everything in gut diversity. And one of the things that a healthy gut lining does is make DAO. So, diamine oxidase, which is, we call it DAO. So not a big thing in our world. We don't see it a lot. We don't have a lot of those problems, but there's a lot of people, I think, that they get they go like a mile deep in one little thing like histamines. And don't get me wrong, folks, like for some dogs, this is a huge problem, but it's a very, very small sliver of dogs. And if your dog has serious histamine intolerance, I wouldn't be looking at histamine so much as what is causing this histamine intolerance. And you got a bigger problem in dealing with getting this gut up to par at even just a baseline level. And if you're talking about histamines and you're not under a great vet's care, you got a real problem. You're trying to deal with your own resources and your own Google and all that with IBD, IBS, extreme leaky gut. Not advised. I wouldn't advise it. If you were my best friend, I wouldn't advise it. I'd say to you, no. You're going to go to Dr. Ruth. You're going to go to a great vet.
Yeah. I just recently wrote an article about histamine and DAO and leaky gut. It's on the Legacy Biome website. If anybody wants to check it out, that can maybe help clear a few things up. Love your advice, Rob. Do we have enough time to just jump into SIBO real quick?
Send me that link because I will recommend that to people who use the H word, histamine.
The H word.
Whenever they send it.
I always say it's not the enemy. It's just the messenger.
Right. Exactly.
Thank you so much for your time today. Yep. So questions or comments, I'm going to put some links in the show notes for more information on FMT. And I'm going to put links in there to Rob's products at Gussy's Gut, because I think the two together, again, I really think it is a match made in pet microbiome heaven, the two products together. Can't thank you so much for your expertise, your time. You're a great storyteller and you're fun to have on. So I hope we need to do this like a quarterly thing. We're just going to attack everything that comes up in the microbiome world. So as always, thanks for joining us and positive vibes. Take care.
Everybody.